I take you through news from India and across the globe. Today, of course, the big Independence Day speech by Prime Minister Modi. A lot of salvos fired, a big resolve that the Prime Minister has taken. We're going to take you through all of that, breaking it down. The big story, of course, is the GST revision. It appears that Prime Minister Modi has a gift for India come Diwali. How is his announcement going to help the country at a time like this amid the Trump tariff threats? We will break that down for you with our panelists on board. And of course, in a quick look on Trump and Putin meet, it appears that India is pushing for peace, but if at all both of them, Trump and Putin, do not come to a consensus, then India will face tariffs. How fair is that? And finally, we will take you through a breakdown of Prime Minister Modi's 103-minute speech, the longest one that he's ever given, where he's spoken a vision for India. As always, the headlines first. Prime Minister Modi reviews and renews Swadeshi call, urges India to build its own fertilizers and fighter jet engines, says focus must be on quality and self-reliance as India doubles import tariffs and Indian goods. Absence of top Congress leaders sparks speculation as Rahul Gandhi and Mallikarjun Kharge give Independence Day a miss, an event that was held at the Red Fort. Reportedly over issues that may have happened in the past where Rahul Gandhi was invited the last time and he had to be seated at the back seat. So to avoid any such controversy, both of them have decided not to show up. They had their own celebration in their Congress office. India's 79th independence stirs sentiments across the globe with 17-year-old American Gabby Merritt, who sang the Indian national anthem Jana Gana Mana in flawless rendition, winning hearts online. Video has garnered emotional reactions as well.
Can you sing the Indian anthem?
Yeah, the national anthem?
Yes. Jana Gana Mana Kasaya Kaya Kreti Fada 朋友把心的故事，我的宝马达，多变的无处靠不吧。
5 dead, 10 trapped as the roof of a historic Dargah Sharif in Nizamuddin collapsed. 9 people have been injured. It's a 30-year-old Dargah that collapsed. Unfortunately, it was Friday namaz prayers. It was crowded, and it seems like the authorities now aiding the families who are injured as well. Many who are injured receiving treatment. At least 65 people have been killed and over 100 injured in massive flash floods after cloudburst that was reported in Jammu and Kashmir's Kishtwar. The last 24 hours has been really tragic for Jammu and Kashmir. We're looking at the Machail Mata Yatra route where cloudburst resulted in flash floods, killing many. Over 200 people have been reported missing. So Omar Abdullah, the Chief Minister, on the spot there. Prime Minister Modi also overseeing rescue operations. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah in Karnataka says that Karnataka will adopt a state-specific education policy based on Commission's report, emphasizing holistic growth of the youth. The panel recommends 2-language system with Kannada or the mother tongue as medium of instruction up to class 5, as opposed to the central government's NEP's 3-language policy. So Karnataka taking its own route, much like Tamil Nadu. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu flags off the Sri Shakti scheme, free bus ride for women, offering travel for women, free girl transportation across Andhra Pradesh. All buses, state-run buses, will now have to give free ride for women, much like again what the Congress has done in neighbouring Telangana as well. Here you saw Nara Lokesh, Pawan Kalyan and Chandrababu Naidu all taking a ride with the women locally as they launch this scheme. And the Malayalam Film Association, Amma, gets its first historic head, Shweta Menon, a woman, and Kuku Parmeswaran, who win the top posts in Amma, marking the first time that women are occupying a body. Of course, this comes in light of sexual harassment allegations within the Kerala film industry. So Well, here you have it, a woman taking at the helm. US President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin to be meeting in Alaska for high-stakes talks on Ukraine, marking their first in-person meeting since Trump's return to office. Trump says there's only a 25% chance of failure, but warns of severe consequences if Putin refuses a ceasefire. The irony here is if Putin refuses ceasefire, Trump is going to slap India with additional tariffs. All right, on Independence Day, you had the Prime Minister giving quite a long speech, the longest, as per his own record, 103 minutes. And in it, he gave a big announcement on GST reforms come Diwali. The big announcement that could impact the Indian economy immensely and will give us a fillip at a point where we're already looking at threats from the United States on tariffs. India is now embracing for a big economic hit with US President Donald Trump slapping 50% tariffs on Indian goods with a warning of more to come if at all the Alaska summit with Russia's Vladimir Putin does not go well. Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, says that he has a plan though to fight back by boosting India's economy from within. And his biggest weapon, of course, the massive reform within GST. The first big change since the GST was brought into place 8 years ago, Prime Minister Modi for the first time has announced reforms. I'm going to take you through what he said exactly. Listen in.
इस दिवाली में आपको एक बहुत बड़ा तोहफा देशवासियों को मिलने वाला है। हम नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लेकर के आ रहे हैं। ये दिवाली के अंदर आपके लिए तोहफा बन जाएंगे। हमारे एमएसएमई, हमारे लघु उद्यमी, इनको बहुत बड़ा लाभ मिलेगा। रोजमर्रा की चीजें बहुत सस्ती हो जाएगी और उससे इकोनॉमी को भी एक नया बल मिलने वाला है।
All right, Prime Minister Modi, in his extended speech, went on to speak about MSMEs getting huge relief, daily items to become cheaper. Well, right now, GST has four main slabs. That's 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. The government now wants to simplify the GST package to just two slabs, that's 5% and 18%. That only means now almost all goods taxed at 12% will drop to 5%. So cheaper will be essential things like toothpaste, food, medicine, education supplies, etc. And even most items that has a 28% slab currently, like TVs and washing machines, will all drop to 18%. So that's going to be massive across industry verticals. It will be a certain relief. Handful of harmful products like, for example, tobacco will be taxed much higher at maybe 40%, and special rates for gems and jewelry will remain. Modi says that this will put more money in people's pockets. It will boost spending power of Indians and will give a big lift to small and medium businesses, especially important now when the tariffs are squeezing exports. Trump tariffs has threatened India, but not so much that we succumb. Prime Minister Modi there putting into perspective on what can be done to uplift the economy and ensure that we are Atmanirbhar. The reforms are built on three pillars, according to the Prime Minister as he spoke at length. Structural changes to make GST simpler, lower tax rates to increase affordability, and ease of living for citizens and businesses. This is what exactly the GST reforms are aimed at. It's aimed at giving a push to sectors like agriculture, textiles, fertilizers, renewable energy, automobiles, health and insurance. A high-powered panel, now post his talk at the Red Fort, we hear that a high-powered panel has already consulted with states and the proposal will be going to the GST Council. It's headed by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and sometime around September, October, the new GST will be rolled out, likely around Diwali as per the Prime Minister. Markets are, of course, watching closely. After what Prime Minister said, it's likely that Monday markets will open up in green. It will be certainly a big pre-Diwali boost. Modi says the past decade was about reform, perform, transform, and now India must prepare for the next leap, aiming for a $10 trillion economy by 2047. So clearly here, from what we see, Prime Minister Modi using GST as a weapon to ensure the economy is stabilized ahead of Trump tariff imposition. Modi's salvo on tariff war Is that a welcome move? Joining me right here is Shelby Williams, political strategist for the Republican Party, of course, to speak a little on the Trump tariffs, the impending on India. Ambassador Veena Sikri, former Indian diplomat. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. We have Adit Kotari, foreign affairs and geopolitical expert, and CA Bimal Jain, GST expert. Before I get to our experts on the foreign diplomacy, I would bring in our GST expert. A quick look at a big relief that Prime Minister Modi may have announced across sectors, from 28% to 18%, from 18% to 12%. That's a huge shift. That's going to give us a lot of spending power. I'm already excited to see what's coming as part of that GST reform. Would you want to explain to us a quick brief as to what this really means for the Indian economy as of now?
See, Nabila, the announcement is focusing towards vocal for local, Atmanirbhar Bharat, against the tariff threat. Now, Honorable Prime Minister is focusing on domestic demand and providing boost to the key sectors and key industries. If you look at rate rationalization, which you talked about, we are presently having 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%, and there is compensation cess on certain items applicable. Now, what is being announced today, that there will be only two-tier rate, 5% and 18%, meaning thereby the slab of 12% will go away, 28% slab will not be there. It is going to be applicable only for few products, and compensation cess which is gone will not be there.
Fantastic.
So, the impact would be.
Did we have to wait for Trump tariff threat for the GST to go down? Because you had the entire country up in arms, upset that we have such heavy GST prices to pay. But well, better late than never.
No, it's a great announcement. Look at Nabila. We were looking for this rate rationalization, this announcement of two-tier rate, 5% and 18% going to boost the economy. Our demand will go up in the market because rate will go down, and it is going to help all common men, Aam Aadmi, society at large, farmers and everyone. If rate is going down, quite obvious demand will go up. And if demand will go up, then this will boost the local domestic economy. And that is what Honorable Prime Minister is targeting about. And this rate rationalization was a long demand. We are into 9th year of GST. This is the one of the thing. And then second important thing, the stability. The rate stability will come into the picture. Today we are having classification dispute. What rate going to be applicable? But once this rate rationalization is being done, for that group of ministers sitting and talking with the state, and this is going to be proposed in September or October, next 56 GST Council meeting. This rate rationalization will add to all our domestic demand. Our key sector will get momentum. They will get incentivization, and thereby the impact of the tariff threat we can reduce to certain extent, and whatever we are finding that going to be negative because of tariff threat will be add up with the domestic demand.
Now, I don't know how much of that, will this really entirely be able to stabilize the economy? Not too sure how bad the Trump tariff impact will be entirely on India. All of that time will tell, but a quick word from Ms. Veena Sikri on Prime Minister Modi using GST as soft economic power to fight the Trump tariff impact impending. What's your view on that? Was this expected? Ma'am, you're on mute. Please unmute.
I think Prime Minister Modi's statement was very clear that his primary objective right now is to protect the interests of the farmers, the fishermen, the entrepreneurs, and the MSMEs. And he said he's going to stand like a wall to ensure that their interests are not affected. So in that sense, he was signaling that on the trade talks with the US, where it's exactly these sectors, dairy and agriculture and so on, which are where it seems that President Trump wants more concessions, where, Prime Minister Modi has drawn the red line that concessions are not going to be possible. Of course, there have been a whole lot of other concessions that Prime Minister Modi has given in terms of purchasing more energy products, in terms of purchasing more soybean and so on, a lot of other aspects that have come in. But I think in terms of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, because this is the big thing that Prime Minister has said, that the answer to this is to make India self-reliant as far as possible. And all these GST concessions are for two purposes. A, for promoting the self-reliance, and B, for making India a more and more attractive destination for foreign direct investment. And I think this ease of doing business, simplifying the whole rigmarole of approvals and, 120 approvals here, this clearance, that clearance, simplifying all of that. Those are some of the very important aspects that he's announced today morning, including the question that by the end of this year, we will already have the first output of our computer chips. So I think this is the semiconductor industry that is going to come up very quickly in India, which is already being planned for some time. So I think that all these aspects put together have signaled a significant step forward for Prime Minister Modi, both for the Indian economy itself, for the Indian citizens themselves. The new bonus on GST will be a big boost, not only for consumption, but for bringing more and more of the so far what was called the black economy into the white economy. By people will not be so unwilling to pay GST. They will readily come and declare their prospects, and this is very good even for foreign direct investment. So I think all in all, this was a very significant step because
absolutely, and in a way, not a direct retaliation at the United States, to also preserve long-term relationship with the US. Since Trump often says India is a friend, Modi is a friend. Well, Modi is responded in measure, very diplomatically, correcting the internal economy and yet maintaining relations without an actual full-blown conflict. Well, that's what India is always known to be, and we've stood up to that, risen to the occasion, even at a time of distress. Shelby Williams, your take on this? We're looking at Trump's doublespeak, if I could say. He's on one hand threatened India with 50% tariffs. On the other, he says, I'm going to be meeting Putin. I want a Nobel Prize for fixing relations between several countries, and he hopes to actually be credited even for Russia, Ukraine. But if it does not go his way, then India faces more tariffs. How fair is that?
Yeah. Well, first, happy Independence Day.
Thank you.
Second, the fact is that Russia is a geopolitical foe of the United States and presents economic and security threats in a number of ways. So the fact that this summit is taking place in Alaska between President Trump and President Putin is very promising. There is no guarantee, like President Trump said, there's no guarantee that it's going to be resolved. President Ronald Reagan famously met with Mikhail Gorbachev in Reykjavik and had everything teed up to resolve the Cold War, and it came that close, but ultimately fell apart. There's a much greater chance of it falling apart here. But when it comes to America's security and economic interests, isolating Russia is important. And that's why, as I had the privilege of discussing on NEWS9 a week ago, when other countries effectively enable Russia's ongoing war and isolation, that's when President Trump stepped in with India. And I believe that President Trump would much prefer to be a trade partner with India than for India to be a trade partner with Russia. I'm very hopeful that something positive will come out of this summit. I think it's fantastic. I think Prime Minister Modi's response was masterful. And I think it's fantastic for India to shore up its economy irrespective of the United States. And if that tariff gets reduced on India and the GST reforms result in a stronger Indian economy, I think obviously that benefits India and benefits us as well.
Well, I'll also bring in Adit Kothari on this. Adit, as we see India trying to stabilize internally itself, we're also looking at the Modi government now, looking at alternative partnerships, be it the UK free trade agreement with the United Kingdom and the Europe. India is exploring alternate avenues, trying to less depend on the US markets. And let's not forget the move where India's rupee is now all set to challenge the dollar. The last 24 hours have been big, very silent moves by the Indian government, but surely in the right direction, you believe?
No, absolutely in the right direction. I think India does need to reduce its reliance on US as a strategic trade partner, and sort of look at more avenues, getting their FTA stitched up with the European Union. To begin with, the FTA with the United Kingdom is already in place, and more such FTAs need to be sort of carved out as a consequence of the multipolar world that we're living in now. But we've got to hand it out to Prime Minister Modi, and this I'm speaking as not as somebody who opines on geopolitics, but somebody who's set up a MSME recently last year in India, and I'm manufacturing LED TVs in India. This was something which we couldn't have thought about maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And the reason why we're looking at this now is because Prime Minister Modi has a vision of ensuring that end-to-end manufacturing becomes a reality in India. So at this point, LED TVs, for example, you cannot import a whole TV from any country. Everything has to be either bought into India in a SKD format, which is basically semi-knockdown condition, and then you've got to assemble them. So as a consequence, that gives the manufacturer a chance to understand the manufacturing process and then start reverse engineering and start producing certain elements in India. And that is exactly what we're doing. And now the 28% slab going away, that is definitely going to boost the economy to a different dimension. We are already estimating that the Diwali sales are going to be up as a consequence, nearly to about 10 to 15%. Given these new GST reforms, Nabila.
A quick word. I would like to bring in Shelby on this. Shelby, the logic behind actually imposing secondary tariffs on India and other countries, those who are cozying up to Russia, or shall I say just for internal benefit. India has bought oil from Russia, to which we are being punished, right? But the question here is that if India stops buying oil from Russia, and if other countries like China stops, then you're looking at global oil prices surging. It could very well surpass the $200 per barrel. So your take on that, on how is US going to deal with something like that? Is it a well thought out move by Trump to threaten countries against indulging with Russia?
I think it is for two perspectives. Let's say all countries stop buying oil from Russia and rare earth minerals, etc. That's going to cause global prices to increase, but only short term. Russia is not going to have any resolve or any choice but to come to the table. In fact, while both President Putin and President Zelensky have not backed down thus far, both have recently shown signs of being willing to talk. Both need to be able to do that in a way that saves face. But the fact that, again, President Putin is meeting with President Trump at this summit to begin with is very promising that things can start to de-escalate, the war can end. Both Russia and Ukraine are going to have to make concessions for that to happen, because both have just been entrenched for years now. So on the other side of that, let's say it all falls apart. Let's say the summit completely falls apart and oil prices would rise if Russia... I'm sorry?
Right. This, from the information we have, we understand this would increase inflation in the United States. Your economy could be dented. Is that not a factor you want to consider?
Well, it is, but again, it's short term. And I think President Trump is looking at the long-term ramifications of ending the war in Ukraine, and he's using... Under the United States Constitution, foreign affairs is under exclusively the president. The Congress doesn't have a say in that. So the president is using one of the only mechanisms that he has under the U.S. Constitution to deal with foreign affairs in a way that creates ultimately free and fair trade where possible with other nations. And as I've said before, India, and as President Trump has said, India is a friend, and I've said it's an important ally. So I think he's looking at the long-term ramifications, recognizing it'll result in short-term spikes in energy prices as well as inflation for the United States.
Question for you before I go to Veena Sikri. But Aditya, a quick question. What is it?
Sure. I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy of the United States. You're punishing India because you do not have that kind of dependency, the supply chain dependency on India, but you do not have the spine to do the same with China, because you're completely reliant from a supply chain perspective, which is why you're not imposing the 50% tariffs on China, for example. So, that hypocrisy of the United States, that double speak needs to be exposed. It needs to be spoken about. And the fact that, whatever United States is doing with India is going to have some sort of an economic whiplash, even in the United States. Say, for example, you're looking at gear parts or gear belts. India is one of the largest producers and suppliers to the United States. So somebody who's got a Ford car, goes in for servicing, his gear parts are going to be now 50% more expensive. So as a consequence, you're hurting, the real segment of American people. So, I don't think it's a very well thought out strategy. I think President Trump is basically trying to show off his bravado, and he's trying to use the Modi government to somewhere arm twist Putin to get him on the table and sort of, come on the negotiation table.
Okay.
Well, that's exactly right. And you're right that there is going to be a backlash or a ramification for America and American consumers. And you're right to point, I don't see it as hypocrisy, but you're right to point out the differences between America's dynamic with China, on whom we are too dependent, and America's dynamic with India, on who India is to a degree dependent on America, and I think that should change. I agree that India should be more self-reliant. I think we should be more self-reliant as well and not depend so much on China. But those are very different dynamics, which have resulted in different responses.
Well, we do know that India is pushing Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is self-reliant India, and we've that push has happened for the last decade, and it seems like the Prime Minister is reiterated on the same lines. Veena Sikri, now India's message, Prime Minister Modi's message, right on Independence Day, has really emboldened our forces. At least perception-wise, we feel a little more confident in facing the impending tariffs that are coming. But your take on Trump and Putin's meet in about 3 hours' time, I suppose, 3 to 4 hours, Trump and Putin are going to be meeting, and that meet, if it goes well, then well, India stays with 50% tariffs. If not, tariffs could only increase.
Well, I think that much more than the factor of double standards that the panelists have spoken about and Mr. Shelby has tried to defend, much more than that is the trust factor. Because I think a relationship between countries are built essentially on the trust factor. And if you have a very strong and good relationship coming along based on mutual trust, based on mutual interest, and suddenly you break that trust, then what do? Repairing the trust is very difficult. And I think the reaction among the Indian people has been exactly that. They've been completely surprised because that the people of India have always wanted a very good relationship with America. There's a very strong people-to-people connect, our students, our engineers, our scientists, the H1B, that's everything. There's a great interest. But when suddenly this kind of a break in the trust factor comes in and you see that India is being thrown under the bus, for whatever reason it may be. It may be that, President Trump is very keen on his deal with China. And actually, he wants to show to China that China is number one for me. And I can put anybody under the bus just to get that good trade deal with China. So China has got a second 90-day pass. And India has got an additional 25% tariff on oil from purchasing from Russia. And possibly an additional more coming up. I mean, how does India come into the bilateral summit between President Putin and President Trump? We are not there, but still, the senior ministers in President Trump's cabinet have said that India will get further tariffs if the talks don't go well. Now, that is something that the people of India just don't understand. Where is this coming from? So I think that whether it is put pressure on President Putin and so on, we all hope that the summit will go well. I'm sure there are some plans. President Trump has spoken of high stakes, but he has also spoken of a 25% possibility of failure. That means there's a 75% possibility of success, which is very good. I think that there would be some kind of a deal that President Trump has in mind, and one certainly hopes that works and that it is followed up.
But Trump has his own set of rules. He says, do it my way.
yes,
or take the highway.
That is fine, but I'm talking about the reaction in India. So I cannot comment on what another president of another country has decided to do, but I'm talking of the reaction in India. And I would like to say that, something similar happened with China, and it's taken decades, more than a decade, to get back to the stage where we are, again meeting President Xi Jinping. Prime Minister Modi is meeting President Xi Jinping. It's a very difficult aspect to get over. Why should a businessman once again trust the American market when he's just been hit badly by these tariffs and other problems? He said, no, I better not trust the American market. Let me find my buyers elsewhere. I won't send anything to. And then what about pharma? I mean, why should the pharma market, go to America and then say, look, we better look for other markets, and suddenly we'll get a tariff on pharma. So let's keep that away from America as well. There's so many aspects which come into the individual manufacturer in India who is, after all, trying to make his ends meet, just as everybody else in America, all the businessmen and, the MAGA program is to make both ends meet and to make manufacturing in America greater. So I think the longer term consequences of a break in the trust factor are very serious. I mean, we just cannot understand, for example, why President Trump wants to now have lunch with Asim Munir and then insist that,
but this is classic Trump style. He knows what nerve to step on, and that's precisely what he's doing. But India, of course, isn't wobbling. I'd say that we're as stern as can be. And Adit, if you could give us a little sense on India's rupee push. I think India now trying to reduce dependence on the dollar, pushing up international trade all on the rupee. Would you explain to our viewers what this really means in that front? We hear that 30 countries from Russia to Fiji now already using the special rupee accounts for direct trade. So that's roughly about 1.3 lakh crore that's been settled so far, all in rupees. Less dependence on the dollar, as much as Trump wouldn't have wanted it. It seems like India is forging ahead.
So I think even though India may have spelt out, de-dollarization is not something that they are advocating or endorsing. But I think once the ruble-rupee trade sort of kicked in, I think the message was very clear that we are trying to reduce our dependency on dollar trade, and we are trying to push as much as we can to trade in rupee, so that we have more control over our economy, we have more control over our spending, and we have more control over our rates. So that is the basic premise on which the rupee trade is going to be pushed. And the more countries are going to be coming into this foray, I think India is already leveraging its platforms really well, the UPI platforms, where several countries have now started to adopt
foreign trade.
The UPI.
We hear that earlier foreign trade in rupees would take a long time, weeks for it to get converted from US dollars, and then business would begin. But now it's instant, considering that many countries, nearly 30 countries we hear, has accepted the Indian rupee and are now trading, at least with India, in rupee. Yeah? Adit.
Sorry. Yeah. So it's going to be seamless in that sense that, you do not have to wait for days for LC clearances and those kind of things to happen. Traders across the platform, traders across borders will have seamless transactions and the ability to sort of expedite their businesses. That's absolutely correct.
Very much. Bimal, my last question to you. I started with you. I'm ending with you. GST rejig. Come Diwali, there's going to be a big gift for India. More spending power for us Indians. We'll have more money in the pocket. Your quick take on what to look out for.
See, the three pillar which is being announced today, structural reform, there would be less dispute on classification and more stability and predictability on rate and policy decision, and most importantly, ease of living. Registration, now it is being stated by Honorable Prime Minister today, is going to be technology driven, seamless, within the time bound. So any startup want to take registration in GST, it would be given within the time bound manner. And even return filing in GST, going to be pre-filled return would be available to that taxpayer, trader, so that return can be filed seamlessly. And the refund one. Whenever we are exporting, all exporter, that a time-bound refund would be given to them. Even though you are doing inverted duty structure, what is the inverted duty structure? That I'm purchasing raw material at a higher rate, but my outward is at a lower rate, then the accumulation of credit. Government has announced they are going to done away with IDS concept, and now they will minimize this aspect, and wherever required they will give the refund to the manufacturer, domestic manufacturer, if IDS is coming out. So overall summary from GST perspective would be, it is focusing on vocal for local, self-reliant India, and making GST good and simple tax for the domestic trade. Right. And once domestic trade is boosting up, a key sector boosting up, the motivation coming in, and the rate rationalization for the common man, when it is going down, quite obvious, my demand will go up, my consumption will go up, and it is going to add my GDP, which we are finding as a countermeasure against a tariff threat, which is being given by Donald Trump. But to me looks like these measures are needed to boost our own economy, domestic economy, and then we can counter whatever threat we are getting from outside India.
Okay, well, it took Trump tariffs to finally bring down GST rates. We're very happy with that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate Ms. Veena Sikri, Shelby, Bimal and Adit for joining us here today to share your views. Well, clearly here, India showing economic resilience on the global stage and domestic stage. Now, I'm going to take you through exactly what Prime Minister Modi said. On Independence Day, he gave the longest Independence Day speech. Prime Minister Modi's marathon, 103-minute speech. Speaking of India's vision, all built on Atmanirbhar self-reliance push. Modi declared self-reliance not just in imports, exports, foreign currency, also speaking extensively about India's capabilities, its strengths within every sector. I'm going to take you through some of what he said. Citing the success of Made in India weapons, let's start with Operation Sindoor. He spoke about defense and economic self-reliance that are the twin pillars of developed India. So he says by 2035, India will build the Sudarshan Chakra shield system to protect both civilian and military zones while striking back with precision. Challenging India's youth that in your generation, ensure, basically I challenge you, that your fighter jets must run with India-made engines. A big motivational speech he gave, snippets of which.
2035 तक मैं ये राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा कवच का विस्तार करना चाहता हूं, मजबूती देना चाहता हूं, आधुनिक बनाना चाहता हूं, और इसलिए भगवान श्री कृष्ण से प्रेरणा पाकर के हमने श्री कृष्ण का जो सुदर्शन चक्र था, उस सुदर्शन चक्र की राह को चुना है। अब देश सुदर्शन चक्र मिशन लॉन्च करेगा। पाकिस्तान की नींद अभी भी उड़ी हुई है। अब भारत ने तय कर लिया है कि न्यूक्लियर की धमकियों को अब हम सहने वाले नहीं हैं।
And speaking on the economy, two major task forces, one for GST's second generation reforms, another for next gen economic reforms. Prime Minister Modi also spoke, without naming names, about economic greed of certain nations. A whale jibe there, clearly on the United States after the Trump tariffs. But here's what he said on GST changes upcoming in India.
मेरे देश के युवा वैज्ञानिकों को, मेरे टैलेंटेड यूथ को, मेरे इंजीनियर्स को और प्रोफेशनल्स को और सरकार के हर विभागों को भी मेरा आह्वान है, क्या हमारा अपना मेड इन इंडिया फाइटर जेट्स के लिए जेट इंजन हमारा होना चाहिए कि नहीं होना चाहिए। हम नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लेकर के आ रहे हैं। ये दिवाली के अंदर आपके लिए तोहफा बन जाएंगे। सामान्य मानवीय की जरूरतों के टैक्स भारी मात्रा में कम कर दिए जाएंगे। बहुत बड़ी सुविधा बढ़ेगी। हमारे एमएसएमई, हमारे लघु उद्यमी, इनको बहुत बड़ा लाभ मिलेगा। रोजमर्रा की चीजें बहुत सस्ती हो जाएगी और उससे इकोनॉमी को भी एक नया बल मिलने वाला है।
Now, by end of 2025, India will be launching its own semiconductor chips. Prime Minister Modi mentioning that 6 plants are already running, 4 more approved. The push extends to AI, cybersecurity, deep tech and operating systems to make India globally competitive.
हमने उस बोझ से मुक्त होकर के मिशन मोड में सेमीकंडक्टर के काम को आगे बढ़ा है। 6 अलग अलग सेमीकंडक्टर के यूनिट्स जमीन पर उतर रहे हैं। 4 नए यूनिट्स को हमने ऑलरेडी हरी झंडी दिखा दी है, ग्रीन सिग्नल दे दिया है। इसी वर्ष के अंत तक मेड इन इंडिया, भारत की बनी हुई, भारत में बनी हुई, भारत के लोगों द्वारा बनी हुई मेड इन इंडिया चिप्स बाजार में आ जाएगी।
Now, hailing the anti-Naxal operations that turned terror corridors in Chhattisgarh into green corridors, Prime Minister Modi announced a high-powered demographic mission to address threats to India's demographic balance, especially in border areas.
हमने एक हाई पावर्ड डेमोग्राफी मिशन शुरू करने का निर्णय किया है। ये मिशन, इस मिशन के द्वारा ये जो भीषण संकट नजर आ रहा है, भारत पे मंडरा रहा है जो संकट है, उसको निपटाने के लिए तय समय में सुविचारित, सुनिश्चित रूप से अपने कार्य को करेगा।
Now, reaffirming that he will stand like a wall for Indian farmers, Prime Minister Modi vowing to slash fertilizer imports, explore deep water energy and boost hydro and solar power. By 2047, nuclear energy capacity will grow tenfold through 10 new plants, he says. The critical minerals mission of the country will explore about 1,200 sites for vital resources. His word on that.
भारत के किसान, भारत के मछुआरे, भारत के पशुपालक, उनसे जुड़ी किसी भी अहितकारी नीति के आगे मोदी दीवार बन के खड़ा है।
Well, there you have it. Prime Minister Modi, all the way from defense to economy, tech to energy. His 103-minute long address on Independence Day left no doubt India's future will rest on its own strength, its own capabilities and its own self-respect. That's the Modi government's promise on Independence Day that he established. All right, no event goes without its fair share of controversy. Let me take you through what happened today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 103-minute Independence Day address that made history for him, making the longest speech, in fact, breaking his own 98-minute record from last year. He's also now the only second Prime Minister after Jawaharlal Nehru to deliver 12 consecutive Red Fort speeches, surpassing Indira Gandhi's 11. All right, now coming to Prime Minister Modi's first time praise on the RSS on Independence Day at the ramparts of the Red Fort. We're looking at the Prime Minister calling RSS on that very stage, the world's largest NGO, praising RSS on that stage as the organization that's worked extensively for the country, and now it's reaching its centenary, describing it as a golden page for India's history as RSS has devoted itself to service for India. Now, Prime Minister Modi's praises for RSS comes amid reports of differences between the BJP and the RSS, the ideological parent that's believed to be of the BJP, over a few issues, particularly the next party president of the BJP. So let's take you through exactly what Prime Minister Modi said in praise of the RSS today on Independence Day stage.
लक्षावधि स्वयंसेवकों ने मातृभूमि के कल्याण के लिए अपना जीवन समर्पित किया। सेवा, समर्पण, संगठन और अप्रतिम अनुशासन ये जिसकी पहचान रही है, ऐसा राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ दुनिया का ये सबसे बड़ा एनजीओ है। एक प्रकार से 100 साल का उसका समर्पण का इतिहास है।
And of course, the Congress party responding sharply, calling it a blatant breach by the Prime Minister of the spirit of secular Republic of India. Party leader Jairam Ramesh called the speech by Prime Minister Modi as stale, hypocritical and alarming, accusing Modi of politicizing a national occasion like Independence Day to appease the RSS, which he claims has a legacy of hate and divide rather than fight against colonialism. Now, Ramesh there of the Congress suggesting that Prime Minister Modi was now at the complete mercy of the RSS and at the mercy of RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat to extend his tenure as Prime Minister beyond the age of 75, because Prime Minister Modi's birthday in September where he turns 75, he wants RSS support to continue as a Prime Minister. These are claims and allegations made by the Congress party, slamming Prime Minister Modi for praising RSS on the Independence Day stage. Now, that said, adding to the political theatre, today at the Red Fort event, where ideally you've got to see the leader of opposition and the president of the opposition party, the largest Congress party, both Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and LOP Rahul Gandhi refused to attend the Red Fort ceremony and instead had their own Independence Day ceremony at the Congress office in Delhi. It was raining heavily at the Congress office. Nonetheless, they still held their Independence Day flag hoisting. Well, we know that last year Rahul Gandhi did attend the Red Fort Independence Day celebration, but there was controversy that erupted after he was asked to sit at the back seat. So it appears that this time he refused to go itself. He and the entire Congress unit, including Mallikarjun Kharge, decided to have their own Independence Day at the Congress office, Delhi. All right, now on Independence Day, a very tragic event that unfolded in Delhi. Delhi's historic Nizamuddin area, in fact, a very famous dargah there, a part of the roof of an old dargah that collapsed. It killed 6 people instantly. The incident took place at the Dargah Sharif Patesha inside the 16th century Mughal era complex that also houses Humayun's tomb. The lime green structure, believed to be at least about 25 to 30 years old, caved in on one side. Eyewitnesses say nearly 15 to 20 people were inside, including the imam, when the roof gave way. 10 people were trapped under debris. In fact, all the other people, 9 of them who were under debris, have been rescued. They're currently receiving treatment, but 6 people died. Unfortunately, it was Friday namaz prayers that was underway, and you had a crowd there, and that's when, due to relentless rains, the wall collapsed, killing 6. A day of Independence Day, a day of prayers, it turned into shock and grief for many within the community on this day of celebration. All right, now Kolkata, that's barely come to terms with the horror of the RG Kar hospital rape and murder case. Now we're looking at another tragedy that's gutted the medical fraternity in West Bengal. In Hooghly's Singur, 24-year-old trainee nurse Dipali Jana was found hanging from the ceiling of a 3rd floor room inside a private nursing home on Thursday. While the management insists it was suicide, her family alleges sexual assault and murder, accusing the authorities of silencing her after she reportedly exposed irregularities at the private medical facility. This is the allegation posed by the family members, but locals and activists have taken to the streets now, marching to the police station demanding justice and a magistrate-supervised post-mortem for transparency in the case. Police have arrested the nursing home owners Subir Goda and Radha Gobinda Ghatak, 2 of them. In fact, one of them said to have been in a relationship with Dipali. Investigators suspect emotional distress after Ghatak allegedly went back on his word to marry her. Tensions grip Singur as police guard the nursing home. The nursing home staff say it was suicide, but the family members believe that she was raped and murdered. Protests rage, grief runs deep. We're hoping that the truth behind Dipali Jana's death surfaces at the earliest. All right, let me cut across to Bengaluru. Sad story. A house reduced to rubble, 5 others badly damaged. That was the scale of destruction after a powerful cylinder blast rocked Bengaluru's Wilson Garden area. A cylinder blast in Wilson Garden area of Bengaluru literally damaged 6 houses that shared the same compound, more or less. In fact, this is supposed to be a cylinder leak that's suspected, but a confirmation is yet to come. The explosion tore through the rented home of a 35-year-old Kasturamma, injuring her and her child. And the sad part was the neighboring house. The neighboring house where 10-year-old Mubarak, this little boy, died owing to this blast. At least 9 others have been injured. They're currently being treated at Sanjay Gandhi Hospital, Victoria Hospital and a private hospital nearby. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah also was seen visiting the spot. He's announced 5 lakh compensation to the boy Mubarak's family and promised to cover all medical expenses and also ensure that the houses that are damaged, 6 houses have been damaged in that cylinder blast, all will be rebuilt. The blast shook the locality. It happened at around 8:30 a.m. Residents reported a deafening sound and debris scattered all across the narrow lanes of that Wilson Garden area. Bomb disposal squad, ATS, SDRF, fire services all combed through the area to see and pinpoint exactly what was the reason for the explosion. They are suspecting a leakage in the cylinder itself, a cylinder blast, but if there's more, then investigation could be certain. Big story here. Disturbing video from Yerevan and Armenia that's now gone viral. 200 Indian workers, mostly from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, are pleading for urgent help. Those are visuals coming in from Armenia. They allege torture from their company, that they're being denied food, their salaries have been withheld, and that their employer, IG Grant Textiles, are abusing them. They've been raising complaints even to the Indian embassy, but have got no relief. And here they are trying to use social media platforms to push their protest and request the Indian government to rescue them at the earliest. One of the workers, Munna Alam, says that these employees, all from India, were promised jobs in a European firm, but instead were taken to a remote mountainous area far from the city limits itself, and they were left there without food for days and no money to return home as well. In fact, one of them broke down. The employees who were gathered there, as they spoke on that video footage, he says neither Bihar government nor Chief Minister Nitish Kumar have responded to all their pleas and appeals. They allege that the local Armenian police beat them repeatedly when they tried to file complaints against the company. In fact, they were the ones who were further brutalized. I'm going to take you through what one of them said.
यहाँ पे हम लोग ऐसा जगह पे फंसे हुए हैं कि अगर हम लोगों का अगर कंपनी बंद कर देता है ना तो हम लोग खाए हुए मर जाएंगे, बगैर खाए हुए। और 3 दिन हो गया हमको, सबसे पहले कंपनी हम लोगों का ना पैसा दे रहा है खाने का, ना खाना का बहुत प्रॉब्लम है। हमारा ना बिहार का कोई नेता, ना मतलब नीतीश कुमार जी, ना कोई भी नेता हमारा आगे नहीं आया। हम लोग यहाँ पे बहुत पूरा तरीके से फंसे हुए हैं। हमारा पुलिस यहाँ पे पुलिस जो है 200 पुलिस आगे हम लोग सर आदमी को मारा है, फिर हमारे पास है।
If true, this is really sad. Another worker who says that he spent 60,000 rupees to reach the Indian embassy only to be turned away. Shockingly, they allege that embassy officials, instead of siding with the Indians there, were siding with the company instead, trying to help them. The workers warn that their situation is now unbearable, no food, no medical aid and no hope, and that's making it impossible for them to live or stay there any longer. They appeal to the Indian Ministry of External Affairs to rescue them at the earliest.
इसके खिलाफ हम लोग कंप्लेन किए थाने में, 3 दिन हो गया, कोई इसका सुनवाई नहीं है। फिर हम लोग हार पाँच के 60,000 रुपया खर्चा करके हम लोग एम्बेसी गए, गाड़ी बुक करके 20 आदमी। फिर वहां भी जाने के बाद अंदर जो सर है एम्बेसी वाले, वो भी जितना भी बात कर रहे थे उसी के अंडर में बात कर रहे थे, मालिक के अंडर में, वो भी पैसा खाए हुए थे।
Shifting our focus to Pakistan, floods. Pakistan, that's in a grip of a flood disaster at this point. 164 people have died in Pakistan owing to floods. Dozens of them are said to be missing. Relentless monsoon rains that has unleashed flash floods and landslides in the last 24 hours. Pakistan's worst hit is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Bandeir district. 75 people have died. Mansehra, 17 people have died. In Bajaur, about 18 each, Bajaur and Batagram. In Swat and Lower Tir villages, literally the entire villages have been swept away. In fact, communication has been fully cut. Officials say 125 deaths in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa since last night has been reported. Many of them children. Pakistan Army has joined in the rescue efforts there. So it's really sad to see that civilians in Pakistan, they're bearing the brunt of the nature's fury. And these are the visuals that have come in from different parts of Pakistan. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, as I said, the worst hit. In Neelam Valley, hundreds of tourists there marooned after roads and bridges vanished under raging waters. Warnings have been sounded. Riverbank settlements, all of them have been asked to evacuate at the earliest. In fact, this is a helicopter. Imagine one of the helicopters that was trying to rescue people stranded. That helicopter crashed. That's the visual there coming in from Pakistan. 160 odd people who've died in rains. And finally, I'm going to leave you with Rajnikant, who's still a man in the running. 75-year-old Rajnikant can give any youngster a run for his or her money. His latest film, Coolie, directed by Lokesh Kanagaraj, has stormed the box office, raking almost 151 crores in worldwide collection just on the first day of its release. In India alone, Coolie netted 65 crores on the opening day, second highest ever for a Tamil film, behind Vijay's Leo and ahead of Rajini's own 2.0 overseas. It's breaking barriers, 3.4 million in North America, nearly £124,000 in the UK and over $535 in Australia. That's the collection that's been recorded, all one-day record. For a Tamil cinema, this is massive. Dubbed versions in Telugu and Hindi and presence of big names like Nagarjuna, Upendra, even a cameo by Amir Khan have really pulled massive crowds across languages. With this thunderous start, Coolie has now entered the top 10 biggest Indian film openings ever, surpassing Jawan, Pathan, Animal and even 2.0. Analysts say that with the Independence Day holiday boost, the film could really race past 300 crores by Sunday and maybe even challenge the all-time Tamil record of 691 crores that was set by 2.0. Rajnikant proves yet again, superstardom has no age limit. Thanks very much for joining me right here. I wish you all again a very happy Independence Day. Do have a great weekend. I will see you right here on Monday.
मारो गाँव कांठा पर जहाँ सोनेरी है दिन रातें, जहाँ खुशियाँ करती बातें, मारे गाँव छाई धूप से हरियाली, मारे गाँव छाई धूप से हरियाली। रे बायो गैस है कमाल, गोबर धन से खिले जहाँ फैली घर घर में
Go condoms?
It's over there.
क्या ये different sizes में आता है?
Actually, sir, size matter नहीं करता.
तो फिर क्या matter करता है?
The hardness
of the condom.
Of what's inside.
For the first time ever, presenting Hard Rock Gel, the hardness gel for men.
अब free हर score condoms के 10 pack के साथ.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because NEWS9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment.
It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week. Don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Hi, this is Baman Irani.
Hi, this is Karishma Tanna. Hi, I'm Nushat Bharucha. Catch this conversation on News9. Catch this conversation on News9.
Catch me and this conversation on News9.
Hi, this is Shahid Kapoor and catch this conversation on News9.